The political world was rocked when Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana filed a stunning $80 million defamation lawsuit against Congressman Adam Schiff of California. The clash began during an Instagram Live where Schiff, speaking to more than $200,000 viewers, accused Kennedy of being in the pocket of oil companies. He went further, dubbing him Senator Oil, a label that instantly went viral. But what Schiff thought would energize his base turned into a political firestorm. Within hours, Kennedy's legal team hit back, filing a 60-page lawsuit that accused Schiff of spreading false and malicious claims designed to destroy his reputation. Then came the bombshell, a leaked internal email from Schiff's office. In it, Schiff allegedly wrote, "We need to hit hard. Find any information, accurate or not, to show Kennedy's tied to oil companies." That single phrase, accurate or not, became the smoking gun Kennedy needed to prove malice. Cable, news, blogs, and social media erupted. Hashtags like #Untrack Schiff Exposed and #Stand with Adam trended simultaneously, fueling a digital war. Conservative outlets framed it as proof of corruption, while progressive voices blasted Kennedy's lawsuit as an attack on free speech. Schiff, facing mounting pressure, called an emergency press conference. Standing firm, he declared, "This lawsuit is nothing more than an intimidation tactic. I will not be silenced. I will continue to fight corporate influence in our politics." But behind closed doors, his team scrambled. The leaked email raised serious doubts about his credibility, doubts that even his strongest supporters couldn't ignore. Kennedy, meanwhile, leaned into the controversy, framing himself as the defender of truth and working families. His calm, precise response contrasted sharply with Schiff's fiery defensiveness, shifting the momentum in his favor. The battle wasn't just legal, it became symbolic of a deeper war in American politics: integrity versus rhetoric, facts versus fire. And, as the case moved toward court, one thing was clear: both men had everything to lose. At a community event in Shreveport, Senator John Kennedy stood before a crowd of oil and gas workers, his sleeves rolled up, his tone calm but deliberate. "I'm not here out of anger," he told them, pausing as cameras flashed and local news aired the moment live. "I'm here because the truth matters. When someone uses their platform to spread lies that damage another person's reputation, there has to be accountability." The crowd nodded in agreement. That short clip of Kennedy's words went viral, praised by conservative voices as a defense of honesty in a world of reckless politics. But the story was far from simple. National media seized on the lawsuit, debating whether Kennedy's case had real legal weight. Analysts dissected the difficult standard of actual malice required to win defamation cases against public figures. On one side, progressives insisted Schiff's statements were protected speech. On the other, conservatives framed Kennedy as standing tall against baseless smears. Meanwhile, social media split down the middle. Schiff's allies painted him as a crusader against corporate greed, while Kennedy's supporters pushed clips of his Shreveport speech with captions like, "Truth will prevail." Inside Schiff's office, tension was boiling. The leaked email, in which Schiff's team appeared to suggest using information accurate or not to attack Kennedy, shook confidence to its core. Some aides admitted they had warned Schiff not to go too far, but his belief in the power of his online platform overrode their caution. Leaks of internal dissent only made things worse, fueling headlines that questioned Schiff's leadership and judgment. Kennedy, in contrast, stayed disciplined. Drawing on decades as a lawyer, he avoided personal insults and kept the focus on the lawsuit itself. At a Louisiana town hall, he quipped, "I don't mind a good debate, but when you start making things up, that's not debate, that's destruction." The line drew cheers and quickly became a rallying cry online. The clash revealed a striking contrast. Schiff, once praised for his sharp intellect and media skills, now found himself scrambling to contain the fallout of his own words. Kennedy, measured and strategic, positioned himself as a defender of truth, turning the lawsuit into something larger than himself. What began as a fiery Instagram Live had grown into a full-scale political and legal war. The nation watched, closely as two powerful figures, one armed with passion, the other with precision, collided in a showdown that tested not just reputations, but the very boundaries of free speech in the digital age. At a press conference buzzing with tension, Adam Schiff stood firm, his voice steady, but his eyes betraying strain. "My comments were about holding powerful interests accountable," he declared. "This email has been twisted into a false narrative." He insisted the message was selectively edited, framing it as part of a wider campaign designed to silence his push for clean energy policies. The event, broadcast live across multiple platforms, pulled in millions of viewers. Social media lit up instantly, his supporters flooding timelines with encouragement. "Keep fighting, Adam," and "Don't let them bully you." But alongside solidarity came doubt. A well-known legal analyst on cable news issued a blunt warning. If that email is authentic, Schiff could be in serious trouble. The phrase "accurate or not" practically screams actual malice, the exact threshold for defamation against a public figure. Behind closed doors, Schiff's team was unraveling. The leak had blindsided them, forcing urgent questions. Who had access to internal communications? Why weren't they better protected? In a heated strategy session, senior aides admitted they had cautioned Schiff before his live stream. "We told him, stick to policy, not personal attacks," one aide later confided to a reporter off the record. But he was confident his base would carry him. "We warned it could spiral." Schiff, usually known for meticulous preparation, had ignored those warnings, trusting the loyalty of his digital following. Now, with the email circulating everywhere, that gamble was costing him dearly. Politico and other outlets piled on, publishing headlines like, "Schiff's team warned him, but he didn't listen." His reputation for discipline was crumbling. Meanwhile, Senator John Kennedy played his cards with surgical precision. At a community event in Lafayette, Louisiana, he addressed the lawsuit calmly, surrounded by local business owners and workers. Rolled-up sleeves and a steady drawl gave him an approachable presence. "I don't take this lightly," Kennedy said, standing beneath American and Louisiana flags. "But when someone accuses you of corruption without a shred of proof, you don't just sit back. You fight for the truth." The crowd erupted in applause. Clips of the moment spread across the internet, hailed by his supporters as proof of integrity. Kennedy's legal team then dropped another bombshell, a supplemental filing that included text messages between Schiff's aides, openly discussing ways to dig up dirt on Kennedy's environmental record. While not as explosive as the infamous email, the texts painted a picture of a calculated smear campaign, further bolstering Kennedy's case. The media war escalated. Conservative outlets splashed headlines like "Schiff's lies exposed in $80 million lawsuit," while progressive commentators rushed to defend him with counter-narratives. Schiff has the right to call out corporate influence. Social media became a battlefield. Schiff's Twitter and Instagram, once safe havens of support, turned into contested ground. His backers shared memes casting Kennedy as a puppet of oil companies, while detractors circulated screenshots of the leaked emails stamped with captions like "caught red-handed." On TikTok, one viral video stitched Schiff's fiery Instagram accusations against Kennedy, with the senator's calm rebuttal. Over 5 million viewers watched the clip, overlaid with the haunting question in bold letters: who's really telling the truth? Telling the truth? The viral video's comment section became a battlefield of opinions, a mirror of the broader national debate. Some users hailed Adam Schiff's courage, while others condemned his recklessness. Sensing his narrative slipping, Schiff attempted to seize back control with a second live stream, this time from his California district office. Sitting behind a desk piled high with policy papers, he doubled down. This lawsuit isn't about truth, it's about intimidation, Schiff declared, his voice steady and defiant. I will never apologize for calling out the influence of big money in politics. But the response was far from unified. Loyal followers cheered, while others flooded the chat with sharp questions. Where's the evidence against Kennedy? And why not admit you went too far? Schiff's once unshakable online community showed signs of fracturing. Even some progressive influencers voiced unease. One prominent activist on YouTube released a video titled "Schiff's Mistake: Why We Need Proof," urging him to back up his claims or reconsider his approach. The video drew thousands of likes, signaling growing skepticism among Schiff's base. The legal momentum shifted when a federal judge issued a 10-page ruling rejecting Schiff's motion to dismiss the case. The decision cited the leaked email and other evidence as sufficient grounds to proceed to trial. Legal experts noted the ruling was a major blow, strengthening Kennedy's case by affirming the plausibility of actual malice. Conservative media pounced on the news, with headlines declaring, "Court hands Kennedy Major win against Schiff." Even neutral outlets struck a cautious tone. The Washington Post wrote, "Schiff's legal troubles highlight the dangers of unverified claims in the social media age." The ruling sent shockwaves through Schiff's inner circle. What once seemed like a political scuffle had grown into a grave threat to his career and his finances. Meanwhile, Kennedy seized the moment. At a town hall in New Orleans, he addressed the issue with humor and calm resolve. "Folks, I've been called a lot of things in my time, but corrupt ain't one of them," he quipped, drawing laughter and applause. Then he grew serious. "This isn't about me. It's about proving that we can disagree without destroying each other." The event, broadcast live on local TV, strengthened his image as a man of principle standing tall against reckless attacks. Behind the scenes, Kennedy's legal team moved methodically, bolstered by new evidence. Text messages among Schiff's staffers discussing ways to dig up dirt on Kennedy's record. While not as damning as the infamous email, the texts reinforced Kennedy's claim that Schiff's accusations were part of a calculated smear campaign. For Schiff, the pressure mounted. Legal costs climbed past $500,000, forcing him to dip into campaign funds. Reporters camped outside his office daily. On social media, his strongest weapon was now turning against him. What had once been a platform for bold advocacy had become a chorus of doubt about his credibility. Kennedy, in contrast, rode a wave of public support. His measured restraint earned admiration not only from his conservative base, but also from neutral observers. The lawsuit revealed more than a clash between two politicians. It underscored the power and peril of words in a hyper-connected world where one misstep could ignite a firestorm. By now, the case had reached a fever pitch. Schiff's Instagram live accusations, coupled with the leaked email, plunged him into a deepening crisis as his once loyal base fractured under scrutiny. Kennedy, with his composure and legal precision, transformed the ordeal into a defining moment, emerging as a rising conservative star. In Washington, Schiff's Capitol Hill office had become a pressure cooker. The federal judge's refusal to dismiss the case confirmed it would go to trial. The haunting words "accurate or not" from the leaked email were dissected relentlessly on cable panels. One CNN commentator noted bluntly, "Schiff's team faces an uphill battle. That email looks like intent to harm, and that's exactly what Kennedy needs to prove." The financial strain was equally daunting. Legal fees soared past $750,000, draining campaign coffers and personal savings. Schiff, usually polished and confident, appeared weary in public, his trademark composure replaced by caution. Behind closed doors, his advisors were divided and scrambling, trying to salvage his image while preparing for the possibility of an $80 million judgment. As the walls closed in, even Schiff's political allies, once eager to rally behind him, began to distance themselves. At a closed-door Democratic caucus meeting, party leaders offered only tepid support, choosing to emphasize broader legislative goals rather than defending Schiff directly. One senior House member, speaking off the record, admitted, "Adams, a liability right now. We can't afford to get dragged into this." The lack of vocal backing from influential figures stung Schiff, who had long been a respected voice in progressive politics. Even some of his closest allies, known for their fiery rhetoric, released only vague statements about the importance of constructive dialogue, carefully avoiding any mention of the lawsuit. The isolation was obvious. Schiff's office, once decorated with framed photos of triumphant rallies, now stood as a reminder of a fading golden era. Tensions within his staff soon spilled into the open. A second damaging leak emerged, this time from a communications aide, claiming Schiff had ignored repeated warnings about going public with his live stream accusations. "We begged him to verify the claims first," the aide revealed anonymously. "He thought his followers would shield him." The story made front-page headlines, further undermining Schiff's credibility and painting him as a leader blinded by hubris. Online, the backlash grew harsher. Schiff's Instagram posts, once flooded with thousands of supportive comments, now drew a steady stream of criticism. A viral Twitter thread from a progressive influencer with over 1 million followers asked bluntly, "We admire Adams' passion, but why make claims without evidence? This hurts our cause more than it helps." The post exploded, racking up tens of thousands of retweets. On TikTok, where Schiff had once connected with younger voters, mocking videos spread like wildfire. One clip, viewed over 10 million times, overlaid his live stream with a cartoon anvil dropping, captioned, "When you accuse without proof." The comments were merciless. "Adam needs to apologize," and "This is embarrassing for us." Even his most loyal supporters began demanding clarity. What was once Schiff's greatest strength, his digital platform, had transformed into a weapon against him. Meanwhile, in Louisiana, Senator John Kennedy was riding a surge of momentum. His steady, calculated handling of the lawsuit elevated him to conservative hero status. Supporters praised him for defending his integrity against what they called reckless political attacks. At a rally in Baton Rouge, Kennedy addressed a packed crowd of workers and small business owners, his voice calm but resolute. "I've spent my life serving the people of Louisiana," he declared, standing beneath a banner reading, "Truth matters." When someone tries to tear that down with lies, you don't back down. You stand up. The crowd erupted in cheers. The speech, live-streamed across conservative media, quickly went viral, with clips spreading widely on Twitter and Facebook. Kennedy's legal team also strengthened their case with fresh evidence. A deposition from a former Schiff staffer confirming that internal concerns about the live stream had been ignored. Though the testimony remained sealed, hints of it surfaced in court filings, sparking headlines and further tilting the narrative. In Kennedy's favor, Kennedy's public appearances were carefully crafted to reinforce his image as a principled fighter. At a community center in Lake Charles, he stood alongside oil industry workers, a symbolic nod to Louisiana's economic backbone. "These folks work hard to keep our state strong," Kennedy told reporters, gesturing toward the workers behind him. "Accusing me of betraying them without proof, that's not just wrong, it's personal." The event, covered extensively by both local and national outlets, cemented Kennedy's bond with his constituents while underscoring the high stakes of the lawsuit. Conservative commentators praised Kennedy's restraint, with one radio host remarking, "Kennedy's playing chess while Schiff is stuck in checkers." The senator's approval ratings in Louisiana surged, and he began receiving invitations to national conservative events where he was hailed as a defender against reckless political rhetoric. The legal battle then took another dramatic turn. Kennedy's team introduced a new piece of evidence, a recorded phone call between two of Schiff's aides discussing the need to push the oil money narrative despite lacking solid proof. While its admissibility in court remained uncertain, the recording's leak to a conservative news site intensified the perception of Schiff's recklessness. Media coverage grew relentless. Outlets across the spectrum dissected the implications. The New York Times observed that Schiff's legal troubles underscored the dangers of unverified claims in a polarized era. Even progressive-leaning publications, once quick to defend him, began to hedge. One editorial bluntly urged Schiff to reassess his approach before further damage is done. Inside Schiff's camp, the pressure mounted. Reporters demanded daily updates, and one advisor, speaking anonymously, admitted, "We're drowning in this. Adam's still fighting, but the narrative is slipping away." The strain bled into Schiff's personal life. Media scrutiny made routine tasks, like visiting his district office in California, feel like logistical battles, with reporters trailing his every move. His family faced unwanted attention as tabloids speculated about his finances. To manage skyrocketing legal costs, Schiff sold a cherished vacation property, a painful step, but one necessary to avoid draining more campaign funds. In private, he confessed to a close aide, "I thought this would be another political storm we could weather, but this feels different." His advisors urged him to consider settlement, but Schiff, driven by pride and principle, refused. To him, apologizing would look like surrender. By contrast, Kennedy was turning the lawsuit into a political platform. Conservative commentators, grassroots supporters, and national organizations framed him as a symbol of accountability. Schiff, once a commanding figure in Democratic politics, was now fighting for his reputation as allies, and supporters quietly pulled away. The case had grown into something far larger than a personal dispute. It had become a referendum on the power of words, the fragility of public trust, and the high stakes of wielding influence in a digital age where every statement can be dissected. The defamation lawsuit between Senator John Nye Kennedy and Representative Adam Schiff had reached its climax, reshaping both men's careers. What began as a fiery Instagram Live accusation had spiraled into a legal and cultural reckoning. Schiff now grappled with the wreckage of his reputation, while Kennedy emerged as a conservative icon. As the legal showdown drew to a close, the fallout revealed not only the personal cost for both men, but also a broader lesson about responsibility in public communication. Every word mattered, every claim carried consequences. Schiff's world was unraveling. The federal court's refusal to dismiss Kennedy's $80 million lawsuit set the stage for a trial that loomed like a dark storm over his career. Legal expenses had ballooned past $1 million, forcing Schiff to sell personal assets, including a beloved family home in California, to keep up. The financial strain was matched by growing isolation. Key Democratic allies who once stood proudly at his side now kept their distance. At a Capitol Hill fundraiser, a senior party leader dodged questions about Schiff, pivoting instead to shared goals. The message was clear. Schiff had become a liability. Even progressive activists who had once championed his eloquence began to pull away. A prominent environmental group released a statement praising his past efforts, but pointedly avoided endorsing his current fight, urging all leaders to ground their advocacy in evidence. The betrayal cut deep. Schiff realized the coalition he had carefully built over years was crumbling. And on social media, once his greatest asset, he now faced relentless skepticism. His latest Instagram post, a carefully worded defense of his environmental work, was flooded with hostile comments. "Show us the proof against Kennedy," one user demanded, echoing a sentiment that grew louder with every passing day. A TikTok video with over 15 million views mocked Schiff's live stream accusations in a comedic reenactment filled with exaggerated gestures and the caption, "When you tweet, before you think." The comments were brutal. Users wrote things like, "This is why we can't trust politicians," and "Adam's done himself in." Even his most loyal followers were wavering, some openly disappointed that he hadn't apologized to de-escalate the conflict. A progressive YouTuber with a massive following released a video titled "Schiff's Fall, a Warning for Us All," arguing that his unsubstantiated claims had undermined the credibility of the broader movement. The video's 2 million views highlighted just how far Schiff's once unshakable online presence had eroded. In a desperate attempt to regain control, Schiff held another live stream, this time from a modest community center in his district, flanked by local supporters and a banner reading, "Fighting for Our Future." He spoke with a mix of defiance and vulnerability. "This lawsuit is about silencing those who challenge powerful interests," he said, his voice steady but strained. "I won't back down from fighting for what's right." But the response was tepid. Instead of cheers, viewers flooded the chat with pointed questions. "Why not settle and move on?" And "Where's the evidence for your claims?" The shift in tone was stark. Privately, Schiff's advisors admitted the live stream had backfired, reinforcing the image of stubbornness rather than strength. The personal toll mounted. Late at night, Schiff sat alone in his Washington apartment, scrolling through Twitter, in search of supportive voices, only to find a sea of criticism. One former supporter's comment cut deeply. "You were our champion. But this was a reckless mistake." The words lingered, a painful reminder of how quickly public favor could evaporate. Meanwhile, across the country, Kennedy was basking in newfound popularity. The lawsuit had elevated him into a conservative hero, celebrated for standing up to what his supporters saw as reckless political slander. At a major conference in Texas, Kennedy received a standing ovation before he even spoke, with the crowd chanting, "Truth prevails." Ever the strategist, Kennedy seized the moment. "This isn't about revenge," he told the audience in his signature Louisiana drawl. "It's about making sure we can disagree without destroying each other's character." The speech, broadcast, live on conservative networks, went viral, and Kennedy's approval ratings soared. Invitations poured in for him to speak at forums and major political gatherings nationwide. His legal team pressed their advantage, filing motions to compel additional documents from Schiff's side, hinting at even more internal communications that could bolster their case. The turning point came when Schiff stepped down from his leadership role on a key congressional committee. In a brief Instagram statement, He framed the move as a decision to focus on my constituents' priorities while addressing these legal challenges. But political analysts called it what it was: a retreat. Headlines blared, "Schiff's star dims as lawsuit takes toll," with one outlet declaring, "the end of an era for a once-rising Democratic leader." The resignation sent ripples through progressive circles. Organizers began questioning whether aggressive social media tactics were worth the risks. One activist told a political magazine, "Schiff inspired us, but his downfall shows the danger of speaking without proof. We need to be smarter." The lawsuit's shadow had not only diminished Schiff's influence, but also triggered a broader reckoning about how political battles are fought online. Kennedy, by contrast, emerged stronger than ever. His strategic restraint had paid off, earning him admiration as a principled fighter whose case transcended personal grievance. At a refinery event in Louisiana, workers welcomed him as a defender of their livelihoods, chanting his name as he spoke about protecting honest discourse. Conservative media praised him as a warrior for truth. One commentator put it simply, "Kennedy proved you can win by staying calm and sticking to the facts." His national profile soared, with speculation swirling about higher political ambitions. Still, Kennedy remained focused on the lawsuit, his legal team preparing for trial with confidence that the leaked email would secure a decisive victory. But the impact of the case extended far beyond the two men. Politicians across the spectrum began rethinking their social media strategies, wary of the legal risks Schiff's ordeal had exposed. A Washington consulting firm reported a surge in demand for pre-post legal reviews of social media content. As one analyst put it, "No one wants to be the next Schiff." The chilling effect was real. Younger lawmakers began hiring attorneys to vet their tweets and Instagram posts, prioritizing caution over spontaneity. Political observers worried the lawsuit could embolden others to weaponize defamation claims, narrowing the space for robust debate. A prominent columnist warned, "When politicians turn to courts to settle political scores, we all lose a piece of our democratic freedom." The lesson was unmistakable. In the digital age, words carry unprecedented weight. Schiff's downfall became a cautionary tale, proof that even the most powerful voices could be undone by a single reckless statement. Kennedy's triumph, built on patience and evidence, underscored the enduring strength of accountability over viral bravado. For politicians, activists, and citizens alike, the saga left one clear takeaway: verify before you vilify. In a world where every post can be scrutinized, amplified, and litigated, truth and responsibility must guide public speech. The stakes, reputation, trust, and the health of democratic discourse demand nothing less.